Hello, Raymond. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
It is well. It's certainly a pleasure to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. It is well. I love that. I love that. And you see, Raymond, I truly appreciate your presence. And oftentimes, I love to thank my guest for two things. Okay. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Raymond, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, Raymond, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some months ago, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Ramon, just recently, I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately, I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Raymond, but ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely moment that day, I tell you. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Raymond that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, how you're offering your solution. It's amazing. And just before you got a text from me, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Raymond is doing, not only me now, but even the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Raymond. So thank you so very much for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thank you so much, my man.
Yeah, it's absolutely a pleasure to be here. Isn't it interesting that the tree is known by its fruit, and so it's not a tree that has mangoes;
Yeah,
it's a mango tree. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, my man. Okay, let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for, let's say, two reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, Ramon, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very, very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Raymond on the show is for the sake of the listeners. You see, Raymond, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Raymond, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Raymond got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Raymond, over to you.
Thank you. So, greetings to the audience. I'm a man whose journey has been shaped by service and resilience and faith. For over 33 years, I served in the United States Navy, culminating as the first Black person to be selected as the Fleet Master Chief of Naval Forces Europe and Navy Forces Africa. I learned firsthand that trust and character are the bedrock of any really strong team. Today, I channel that same conviction through Kemp Solutions, the organization that I started after I left the Navy, which is founded on resilience, grounded in attitude, belief, and character. And I just completed an appointment by the President of the United States to serve as a commissioner on the American Battle Monuments Commission. I believe that success happens when I'm able to find a better way, share it with other people. How I do that is by challenging the status quo, but what I bring, and I hope to you and to your audience, is a contribution that'll be beneficial.
Awesome. The word you mentioned that caught my attention pretty good, resilience. That's a very
Yeah.
powerful word, and I love that. That's an interesting story. Okay, so I'm still curious. What inspired you to join the Navy?
It was really simple, Elisha. The recruiter who came to my high school, the Navy recruiter, was the most persistent, and he had amazing stories of traveling the world. And I had an uncle who was also in the military, and so the Navy won out over the other services because of the persistence, dare I say, resilience of the recruiter.
Got it. So serving for 3 years. How was that like?
It was very challenging. The year that I joined was the same year that Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday became a holiday. However, the prejudice and discrimination was still running very rampant in the Navy. And so it started very, very difficult. And what I discovered is even throughout my entire career, I find myself having to work twice as hard for half the credit as others. But I didn't lament over that struggle that just happened to be mine. See, I'm a man of faith. And so when I realized that, okay, things are going to be challenging, well, it was challenging for Joseph when he was in the pit. It was challenging for him when he was in Potiphar's house and in prison. So if he can overcome those challenges through a measure of faith and obedience, surely I can overcome the challenges that I had to endure.
Amazing. And now I see why you're just so good at what you do. Because folks who are bringing God's principle into what they're doing, to me, they're so powerful. And I just find it very interesting to listen to them. That's a beautiful one. So let us look at it from the angle of leadership. How did your leadership style change over time?
The one thing that I would say changed mostly was the ability and the technique with which to communicate. Technology has changed the information that people get from the beginning of their young lives into their professional lives. And so being able to communicate with the idea that we all matter. So it's important that everybody has the understanding that we are stronger together. Whereas when I first got into leadership in my earliest days of the Navy, it was do what I say because I said so. And as I evolved as a man and technology evolved the world, it became important for me to begin with why. Let me start with why we're doing this thing so you understand the importance of it. And then those young people, even today, I spoke at Collin College yesterday, and I told those young people at that school that they are just as powerful as any other group that has ever existed when they get the proper tools, parts, and material to get started. And so the evolution for me came in the technique with which I communicated.
Profound. I got that. And that's you empowering them. And that's one of the traits of a true leader. You know, a true leader that doesn't just entertain people, they empower them. That's a brilliant one. I
Yeah.
love that. So, how did you deal with racism in the Navy? Because I know these stuffs are there. How did you deal with it?
Yes. Well, racism is the same as any other measure of discrimination. So the techniques that I'll share right now are the same techniques that people who are marginalized or people who may not be given the dignity and respect that they deserve. What I realized is I have to be when I was confident in myself, believing that I could accomplish whatever task was set before me, what I call the ABCs of leadership: attitude, belief, and character. No one can take those away. And so I maintained a strong attitude because attitude determines your altitude. I held fast to my beliefs, not only within the Bible and spiritually, but also personally, because if you believe, you can achieve. And then I held fast to my character because no matter what anyone else said, I knew that whether someone was looking or not, there would be great value if I maintained a high standard. And so that was the way I chose. And I encourage others to overcome any measure of discrimination that they may be experiencing.
Attitude, belief, and character, the ABC of leadership, right?
I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that?
Okay, I said the ABC of leadership, attitude, belief, and character. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I got that. Okay, so you mentioned becoming Fleet Master Chief. How did you break through barriers to become it?
It was very frankly, it was those three things. My reputation became one that I had strong integrity and unwavering integrity. And so that is something that people trust. And when there's a measure of trust in place, then it also creates a measure of inclusion and collaboration. And so my reputation created space where when leaders would ask my opinion or my perspective on something, I would be able to speak truth to power. The most important part is truth to power. And then that created the opportunity for me to, rise above my peers with regard to my technical competence, and then be selected into that position as a nominee, a job I didn't really think I could ever attain because I never had the idea that I would be that high in the Navy, but someone submitted my name and nominated me for the position, and I was selected, much to my surprise.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I got that. So, what was it like being appointed by former President Biden?
It's very much the same. And Elisha, I would encourage you and the users, your listeners, oftentimes there are tasks that are before us. And if we just do our best, if our standard is the best that we can do, you never know what might happen. I entered into the Navy with the thought of just making it to the lowest level that you could retire, and found myself at one point the most senior enlisted person in the Navy. The last three positions I entered into, someone tapped me on the shoulder essentially and said, "Hey, you should try this." When I retired and left the Navy, the same thing happened 2 occasions. Someone from the National Security Leaders for America tapped me on the shoulder and said, "We think you'd be a good fit." About a year later, someone else tapped me on the shoulder and said, "President Biden, you're being appointed into this position." And so I used that as, because it wasn't something that I applied for. None of the last three positions I had in the Navy, as the Command Master Chief of an aircraft carrier, Inspector General for the Navy, or Fleet Master Chief, did I put my hand up and say, "I want that"? Someone asked me to do it. And I fully believe that when we do our best and maintain that standard and the ABCs, the doors will open for us. There's a saying where I'm from that good meat makes its own gravy. And so when we are living that way, opportunities come for us. And that's what
Mm,
has happened for me.
beautiful, and I can relate to that. I tell you, it's just so true. You know, there was this time where the Holy Spirit told me, He said, whenever you want to do anything for anyone, don't do it in such a way that they will be pleased. Do it in such a way that God will be pleased. Ask yourself, if God stepped in now, what's He going to say about this thing you just did? How is He going to feel about it? Then that shifted a whole lot of things in my mentality. I tell you, my mindset. I had a total mindset shift. So whatever it is that I'm doing because I want God to be pleased now. I want Him to come and say, Elisha, you did a great job right here. You did a great job right here. Then He said, just what you said just now. He said that it will attract a lot of opportunities your way because now you're doing it to please just one person, which is God. So I can relate to that. That's a beautiful one, my man. So we still have a few questions here. So transition into business, all right. What was the shift like, from the Navy to running your own business?
Well, thankfully, as an entrepreneur, I still have autonomy over my personal business. What has become interesting is, back to your previous question, how do I communicate with corporate companies and with businesses that don't have a Navy background? learning how to translate the challenges and the leadership styles and techniques that we used in the military into civilian speak. It was a bit of a challenge. However, it has worked out. It has worked out well. Organizations that want to be high performing organizations like the military, they are looking for those techniques. And so great opportunities have come to show companies and to tell companies that there are leadership styles and techniques that go beyond the fence line of the company, that go beyond the four walls, beyond the doors of that organization, to make not just their company flourish, but also to invest in the people. And that is something that is very intentionally done in the Navy, because we have that person as a whole, not just in their professional competencies. And so sharing those techniques and learning the language to share those techniques in business has been an interesting journey.
I got that. I got that. So, what inspired your book, Building Resilience for Hybrid Success?
Yes, there was. Thank you for asking that question. It was a passion project that started with a conversation. In America, there was a really big challenging time socially in 2020, 19 and 20, not just because of the global pandemic, but also because of a murder that was publicly, shown on television, of a man named George Floyd. And it created a social upheaval within the United States. And I said to a friend of mine, what an awesome time to be a leader, because leaders don't just show up when things are going well. Leaders are ready to run towards the challenge. And as we had a conversation, he disagreed with me about it being a great time to be a leader. It started off as a text, and I realized I had more to say. It turned into an email, and then it turned into the book on techniques and styles of how to lead people, even in this hybrid, odd environment that we had never experienced before. And I firmly believe that everyone deserves to be led well.
Exactly. So, what are your top advice for today's leaders?
My top advice comes in the form of the importance of communication and understanding the people. There's something that I call, a course I just created called Tidal Leadership. But it's TIDAL, just a play on words, because there's a saying that a rising tide floats all boats. And I think leaders today need to realize that they are the tide. And so as they create space to elevate, as they create space to lead, groom, guide, and create an environment of growth for people, then that is where the true success is. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so taking the time to express that care for people, invest in them, will create a space where you will learn what level to communicate with them at. And then you'll realize that and create the space that we are stronger together. And that is a skill and a mindset that will work from the most junior leaders to the most senior executives.
I got that too. That's a brilliant one. So, to bring this to an end, Raymond, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to reach out to you, ask questions, or make a purchase of your book, how can that be
Sure,
possible?
absolutely. So if you're interested in the book, if you want a signed copy, you're welcome to find me on social media. I can be found Raymond D. Kemp across all social media platforms. On LinkedIn, it's Raymond Kemp. And again, if you want a signed copy, you're welcome to DM me and we can do it that way. Or you could go to Amazon and get a copy of the book, Building Resilience for Hybrid Success. And I'd love for you to get a copy. I poured my heart into it. What I would like to do, just as a point of something for people to walk away with. We already talked about, and thank you for bringing it up, we talked about the ABCs of leadership: attitude, belief, and character. But what I would like to give you is 10 two-letter words. 10 two-letter words that will remind you that you can overcome and that you can do all things, that you can have things greater than you could ever think or imagine. And those two-letter words are, if it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me. It's not you're asking for any handouts. You are willing to lean into those things that are important, impacting hearts and minds, and you're willing to take responsibility. Keep that with you. If it is to be, it is up to me.
If it is to be, it is up to me. That's a deep one.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Awesome, my man. So that's going to be the end of the show, Raymond. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this beautiful stuff with us. I tell you, invaluable information. Truly appreciate it, my man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was a beautiful